Since creating the video on why we left Australia, the overwhelming majority of you have been asking us how we make an income to be able to travel around Southeast Asia and set up a new life over here while still earning Australian dollars. And it's a great question. And I'm going to go through a little bit of how we go about making our income so that we can live here in Southeast Asia with an Australian income, which gives us high purchasing power here in Southeast Asia, and how you could possibly do it yourself. So for those who don't know the background, me and my family sold everything we owned and left Australia 2 years ago. And we've been traveling around Southeast Asia since then, spending more time together as a family and living arguably a better quality of life for a third of what it costs us to live in Australia. And that's obviously not possible to do for an extended period of time if you don't have an external income stream. Now, there is a lot of people that travel that we've met that are just doing it on savings. The thing is, I don't like the idea of doing that. I like the idea of having the nest egg of the stuff that we sold as cash, just in case emergencies pop up. You don't know what's around the corner. Even though we have travel insurance, we may have to go back to Australia because one of our family members gets sick, or we may have to go back to Australia for an emergency. We just don't know. Heck, we may even have to go back to Australia because we have to go back to Australia and settle down again. So you need cash to be able to set back up. So to make it possible to do it the way we've done, you really do need an income stream. And that income stream doesn't need to be a huge amount of money if you're living over here. We've done the numbers, and to live in Southeast Asia, if you're staying in one spot, it costs you about 2,500 Australian a month as a family to live. And that's not skipping really any steps. That's living a reasonably comfortable life. You can get away with spending less than $40,000 a year over here and living a very, very good, comfortable life. That is Australian dollars, by the way, but living a very good, comfortable life. So that's the first thing I'd say, is that you don't necessarily need to replace the current income you're on to be able to do this as a lifestyle and do this as a alternative to living in Australia with the stupidly high costs of living. And I'll make a future video on a breakdown of the costings to live in Southeast Asia like we do in a future video. But the reason you clicked on this video is you are curious about how we go about making this income. And I'm very honest and transparent about that. So I run a marketing agency called My Online Guy. And I started that agency about 8 years ago. It's been about 8.5 years now. And there's going to be a few of you out there that go, oh, well, that's good for you. You know digital marketing. But 8.5 years ago, I was a mechanical fitter. I came out of the Navy and I moved into agriculture and was working on harvesters and agricultural equipment. I did not have a background in marketing, but I want to talk about why I made the transition and how I made the transition to be able to make that work. So I could go from swinging spanners and a brick and mortar career into the digital space that allowed us the freedom to be able to travel wherever we want. And I want to qualify this by saying this is not a scam. This isn't an MLM. This isn't some thing you see on TikTok. This was starting a business from scratch and doing the equivalent of what would be like starting a plumbing company in the brick and mortar world. I just started a digital business that doesn't necessarily rely on us being in any one specific spot. Okay, so let's rewind 8.5 years. So I got out of the Navy and I became a mechanical fitter. So then got a job in the wheat belt of Western Australia, working on harvesters and tractors, things like that. And that job was good. It was enjoyable. I didn't mind it, but I was coming home, I was sore, my hands were rooted, and during harvest and seeding, I was working huge hours because when the farmers are working, you're working. And I remember coming home one day and just saying to my wife, I'm kind of sick of swinging spanners, and I want to go and do something else. But like a lot of people out there, when you spent a career doing something, it's hard to go and then transition into something else, especially with the amount of time it took to learn how to become a mechanical fitter that could do the job reasonably well. It's hard to then picture yourself doing anything else. And I remember seeing an ad online for making income online and making money online. And so after work, I'd go and watch these videos on how people are making hundreds of thousands of dollars online doing all kinds of different things. And that just planted the seed of the idea to me that if these idiots can do that, then why can't I do it as well? And so over the space of about a year, I sort of started thinking about the things that I could be doing online, exploring the space, exploring what was possible. And then I sort of settled on starting a digital marketing agency. And basically, I just rolled up my sleeves and treated it as if I was doing an apprenticeship. And so basically, I just made the conscious decision that I know I don't know how to do digital marketing now, but it's something that I want to do because I see it as the best way to get off the spanners and into something that can let me be at home a little bit more with my wife and kids. I'm going to focus all of my energy outside of work instead of watching Netflix and watching videos of cats, on TikTok or whatever, or YouTube. I'm going to focus on learning how to do this marketing. And that's what I did for years. I just went online and I just learned how to do marketing, how to do digital marketing. I just started with the basics and just learned and started practicing and teaching myself to the point where I felt competent and comfortable enough to start my own marketing agency. So I started my own marketing agency after hours, basically from about 7 p.m. at night till about midnight every single night. I would go online, I would start trying to find customers and clients to my agency, and I was doing my day job while doing this in the evenings. And I did that for about 2 years. And it got to the point where I was earning enough to be able to transition out of my 9-to-5 job and into the marketing agency. And so I made that leap of faith and I started the marketing agency full time and I grew it. And that's where this whole first video sort of left off. I was in that transition period of growing the agency is when I started spending less and less time with my family. And when I started spending less and less time with my family, and I started thinking to myself, why am I doing this here when I could be building and growing this marketing agency and running this marketing agency from anywhere in the world? That's one of the unique perks of having a digital business, is that it can be done anywhere. And that's what planted the seed in the series of events that led us to traveling around Southeast Asia. Now, let me talk about some of the things I wish I had done differently, knowing what I know now about running an agency. Well, the first thing I would have done differently is I would have probably done a course or something like that. Instead of trying to teach myself how to do it, I would have done a course which would have accelerated my learning by years. I was too stubborn to do a course to teach me how to do the digital marketing side. And it's the one thing I wish I had done, because running a digital marketing agency is great. You're your own business owner, you have full control over your livelihood. It's quite a rewarding job too, because you're helping businesses out. And you can run it from anywhere. It's based in Australia. We're just non-residents for tax purposes, but we can still run it from Australia. It's perfectly legal because it was founded in Australia. So it has a lot of benefits, but it isn't an easy thing to learn, especially if you don't have experience in the digital space beforehand. But I found that when I speak to people about how I make an income online, a lot of people are put off and intimidated by the fact that there's a lot to learn, and doing a course can help a lot with that. I've been toying with the idea of teaching people how I went about doing this. It's something that I've been toying with because I get asked all the time. There's a lot of people that want to do what I do, want to transition into deriving their income online and want to avoid the scams and the MLMs and everything like that. But they just want to make an income online and they just want to do it in an honest way and start a business online that's not going to be selling their friends and family. And I've toyed with the idea of making a course. And I'm just about ready to do it, to be completely fair. I have been asked a lot now and I've sort of put it down on paper how I would go about it. And I'm just about ready to do it. So if that's something you're interested in learning more about, I'll leave a link in the description of this video on how you can learn more about that. I suppose the goal of this video was to show people that, to explain people how we make an income online, maybe show people that all because you're a mechanical fitter or you are a nurse doesn't necessarily mean you can't transition to making a digital income, because I do think pretty much every single person can if they put their mind to it. And to explain that the cost of living is so different here, it's so skewed towards not needing to earn as much, that a lot of the pressures that come from a financial perspective that you have in Australia will just disappear if you manage to do this. And I'll also end on saying this. I think that everyone should be exploring earning a digital income in one way or another. If you do want to stay in Australia, having a secondary income is not a bad thing that's derived digitally. If you're a mum, stay-at-home mum, it's actually one of the best opportunities you've got to create a tangible income that can support your family, that can help you get above the cost of living issues that plague Australia at the moment. It doesn't matter that if you don't want to travel like this. It doesn't matter if you don't want to live in Southeast Asia. I think everyone should explore it because I think it's a good way to derive an income it's a good hedge against losing your job in the brick and mortar world. You know, who knows what's around the corner with the economy, and deriving your income online just gives you a certain flexibility, and that's very reassuring. Guys, if you found that helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to learn more about why we gave up on Australia in the first place, you can watch that video right over here. So guys, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.